What is up, guys? It's James Hernandez. How's everybody doing? And welcome to a brand new video. And today I'm going to be doing another anime review, and this time I'm going to be doing the review for the second season of the anime, which I actually reviewed 2 days ago, or maybe 1 year ago last week. And that is the second season of One Punch Man. So the second season of One Punch Man is the second season of the first season of the One Punch Man anime. And if you guys have seen my review for the first season, we all know what One Punch Man is literally about. It's about the man named Saitama who wants to become a superhero for fun. And he basically just like defeats like every opponent with one punch, but he wasn't really that happy because he actually feels emotionless. And it was also due to the fact that that he really wants to have like a really good match. But then everything changes when he met a cyborg robot named Genos. And then we come across like a couple of like characters, like including the heroes and the villains. So as you guys know, I did a review for the first season of One Punch Man, and despite some of its flaws, I really do enjoy that anime. So does the second season hold up? Let's find out. So let's talk about the animation for this season. Now, unlike the first season where it was animated by Madhouse, this one is actually animated by JC Crew, I think it's called. So if you guys don't know what JC Crew is, I'm not too familiar with this animation company, but this was the animation that did the animation for other animes, which I wasn't too familiar with the exception of one anime which I actually heard of, but I haven't watched, and that is Food Wars. So the animators behind Food Wars actually did the animation for this second season of One Punch Man, unlike the first season that was animated by Madhouse. So yeah, the animation in this anime actually does look a bit different at times because of unlike the first season, this one actually has mixed with CGI, and it has some like hand-drawn elements, whereas the first season has hand-drawn elements in every single episode. So what's been going on in this season is that the first episode in this season actually begins with Saitama and Genos we're walking together in Z City and making sure that they have things they were buying like some groceries for the house and everything else, until like there was another like villain that was like causing trouble, and the villain that we actually encounter in this episode was actually like a long tongue, like a lizard, or like an iguana looking creature, which reminds me of the Toad from the X-Men. And literally like the monster is usually causing a lot of trouble. That's what's been like happening just like in the first season, where we get to see like the other villains. And then we were introduced to the character named King, who was like a martial arts guy. And then it was revealed that that he was actually was featured in the origins of Saitama the whole time, when Saitama defeats like the crab monster and many other monsters way before he was became like the bull-headed superhero that we all know today. And then while that's going on, Saitama was heading towards like to the martial arts tournaments, and where he actually got himself like a wig, which I'm not sure why, but he basically like buys a wig, and then he enters the martial arts tournaments, and then it was pretty easy for him, because while he didn't actually kill his opponents with one punch, because it seems that he was like in control of his powers, he actually manages to like defeat the enemies pretty easily, unlike how he was like when he basically just like eliminate the opponents with one punch, where he was like, well, bam, and then like many of the villains technically die by Saitama's death punch, basically. So I gotta say that like when it comes to like the seasons and the following of the first One Punch Man season, many people have said that the second season is not great, and some people may say that it does not hold up as the first one. So I thought I wanted to like rewatch this season, because this was actually the first Blu-ray of One Punch Man that I actually got, and I actually got this for my birthday from my mother. Way before I actually got like the first season for Christmas. So after watching One Punch Man season 2, do I think it holds up? I actually do think it does. Now, isn't it as good as the first season? Not necessarily, because I do have some problems with this season of this anime. but I don't think it was as bad as everyone says. I don't think it was like a bad season or a bad follow-up to the first one, because I still think, like, while the animation is not animated by Madhouse, I still think it looks pretty good. However, though, the only problems I kind of had with the animation is that there was like too much CGI, which I don't think it really needs to be CG. Like, for example, like there was an episode where there was like this giant centipede creature that just like goes on a rampage in Z City. And honestly, it really does not look that natural, and I really don't think it ages too well, because like I don't think the CG actually needs to be in here, and not all the CG and mixed with the hand-drawn animation really needs to be all mixed together, because it just really doesn't look finished, and it just looks pretty rushed. Not to say it was terrible, not to say it looks like god awful or anything, but it's just like not very appealing to look at. So that's like one of the problems that like the people has with the second season of One Punch Man, which I was like, yeah, I have to agree. Like, not all of the CGI effects actually really does hold up for like for the season 2 standards of this anime. And there was also another CGI effect, which I don't think it's necessary, like the scene of the shot of the world tournaments, like the martial arts tournament, where the people in the background are also CGI, which I was like, why does it look too CG? Why does the human background characters have to be CG? It just doesn't really fit with the hand-drawn animations. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, and the other criticisms I also kind of have with the show is that, like, much like with the first season, we don't really get that much development for like each of the heroes or each of the villains, with the exception of Saitama, Genos, and I will also added the Miss Blizzard from Hell, aka Fubuki, I think that's her name, and we also got to see some Tatsumaki, but like those two characters don't really have much to do, which I was kind of disappointed, because I would have loved to see like more of like of Miss Blizzard, aka Blizzard from Hell, and I would have loved to see like more Tatsumaki, because I felt like those two are the telekinetic girl characters that actually are pretty seem interesting, especially Tatsumaki, who was just a selfish brat, like how we were introduced to her in the first season. And then like, much like in my review for the first season when I talked about Tatsumaki, she is just like a very selfish girl that actually has an attitude, and I don't really blame Saitama for actually pointing at her with this really funny animation where he was like, what's with the attitude from this lost child? And he just points at her, and still to this day I actually laugh so hysterically with that animation pose from like the first season. But what I also but now, with the criticisms aside, let's talk about the stuff that I really like about this anime, because as much as a lot of people said this is not a good season to One Punch Man, I don't really fully agree with a lot of people. Like, I do agree with some of the stuff in it, like the main character, like the other main characters. Well, not main characters, but like the characters that were introduced like at the end of season 1 or even the middle end of the first season didn't really have that much to do in the second season. But there are some really good things about this season of this anime, and that is that I still think the action scenes is actually really cool. And especially like when Saitama goes to the martial arts tournament, there was a scene that I actually did laugh, is when this guy was talking to Saitama in the tournament, and then he basically like touches his wig, and then Saitama actually punches the guy in the air like this, and then he was like, "Don't touch my head, dude." And I was just like, oh my god, because that sequence is where like you really don't want to like push Saitama's buttons, and it's like one of those examples, like if you mess with the wrong guy, you're probably I hate to say this, guys, but you're probably gonna get your ass kicked by Saitama, because that guy, he may be funny, but like when he's like in action, you don't want to mess with this guy, because Saitama can actually literally just knock you out with one punch, and you probably are not going to survive that. So yeah, I thought the martial arts tournament scene was pretty cool. And we also got some like backstories of the character Goro, I think that's his name. He really has like a very like Wolverine stylish looking hair, And he also has a very interesting backstory about like why he doesn't like the Hero Association, like why he wants to beat the heroes. And we were introduced some like other heroes and other villains, which, like I said, they don't really have like a much personality or much development, other than they were just kind of there either to cause trouble or just kind of there being like a heroic badass. But some new characters we actually got to see is like there was this guy who has like a baseball bat, which I think he's called well, not Batman. I mean, which is terrible, was a bad pun. But I forgot his name, but like he's basically the guy who basically just like fights his opponents like with a baseball bat. It's like something like you would see from like Grand Theft Auto if it was adapted as an anime. And I think it would probably will give like some Grand Theft Auto characters a run for their money. But you know, he has his cool action scenes when he was like fighting Goro, and I thought that one was pretty cool. And the battle scenes like with Genos is really cool. And also the scene like where the character I didn't mention in the first season that was introduced in the first season, and that is Speed of Sound Sonic, not to be confused with Sonic the Hedgehog, because it's not Sonic, but Speed of Sound Sonic is the ninja who basically just like challenges Saitama in the first season, and then he goes after him in season 2 in the second episode. And then what happens is that now he's not the only one who was going after Saitama, because the Blizzard from Hell, aka Fubuki, basically was going after Saitama as well, mainly because they want to like test Saitama to see how powerful he is. And Saitama actually had a good match with Fubuki when she uses her telekinetic powers, or basically telekinesis. And then while it's going on, like Genos was confronting Speed of Sound Sonic. So every time that like when Saitama was like fighting Fubuki, and then like when the episode was focusing on Fubuki like battling with Saitama, I kind of forgot that Genos was fighting Speed of Sound Sonic. It was actually appears in the background. And then Saitama was like, wait, what's going on? And then like Genos was like, oh, I'm sorry, master. I seem to like clear some of the dust out because some kind of like ninja guy was coming after us. And then Saitama was like, oh, that's actually enough dust that you've been wiping out, Genos. And then Fubuki was so confused. She was like, wait a minute, Genos is actually Saitama's friend. And then we still got to see like more of the fight scenes between Genos and Speed of Sound Sonic, and it was actually very creative. I think the action in this show, especially like in the final battle in the last episode in this season, where Genos and this old man guy, which his name is escaping me, was fighting this CGI like giant centipede, was actually very creative. And there was also like really fast punches in this show, which reminds me of like not just only Dragon Ball Z, but also reminds me of like Fist of the North Star, excuse me, tongue tied, Fist of the North Star, and also Bobo, which is like hilarious. All the speed punches and all that stuff was just like, it was so fast paced. It was very creative, and I thought the action was actually just really creative, and it was just really fun to watch. And then it ends like with Saitama actually just like one punches a giant centipede, and honestly the way how the centipede dies, it doesn't really look as natural, or as like it's not as creative as like as the final battle from like at the end of season 1, because unlike the first season, like where Saitama actually punches like this giant pig that has a rake as a weapon, and then when Saitama punches that giant pig, he basically just like, it was just nothing but blood, and then it was usually hand drawn. In this one, when Saitama punches the giant centipede, it just looks too computer generated and it looks too CGI, which I was like, really? I mean, it just doesn't look right to me. Which I think that's also like one of the criticisms I have, is that the way how the giant centipede dies when Saitama just like one punches it by ending the fight, it just doesn't look as creative, and it doesn't look as natural as like the final episode like from the first one. So yeah, but even though that I still think that the action is really cool, but I just think they could have like put more like hand-drawn elements into this season rather than just like mixing it with CG. Now I know some people are going to be like, oh, but that's like the animation of the generation that we live nowadays, which that's true. And I've seen some like animes that does have some CG, and to be fair, it really there's some CG and some other animes where I do think it works and it just looks very well done. But in this one, I just kind of felt like it just looks a little off, and I just really don't think it really fits in the world of One Punch Man, which I think is pretty distracting. And the other thing we also got to see in this show is that there was like a backstory of King, where he basically just like he thinks that he's like the toughest guy, but then like he usually just gets like so scared, especially when he met Saitama for the first time. Not as when he was a superhero, but is when Saitama was just a normal looking average dude with hair, and then King notices that Saitama saved him, and then he asks him who he is, and then Saitama was like, "Oh, I'm just an average dude who is just wants to be a hero." And that is where like Saitama like defeats like all these horrific monsters, which is like are just kind of there just to cause trouble basically. And yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, like I thought One Punch Man season 2 was it may not be as good as the first season, but I think it's just as good, if not better than the first season, because there were some CGI which I really don't think it really needs to be here. And I wish there was like some other character developments for the villains and the heroes, especially towards Tatsumaki and the Blizzard from Hell, aka Fubuki. I really wish that we got more developed for these characters. Maybe we might see them more in the third season, which I haven't watched the third season yet because I had to wait for the English dub. Now I know some people may say, oh, why can't you just watch the sub? Well, it's because I want to watch the anime. I don't want to read. Like, if I want to read, then I'll read a comic book or a manga. I don't want to, like, read the show or anything. I just really want to, like, watch the anime. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like, so overall, despite some of his flaws, despite one of the flaws that this anime has, I'm still glad I watched this anime. It may not be as good as the first season, but I cannot say it was bad either, because I thought the story might not be as strong as the first season is, but it really does have really good things about it, because even if this season is not animated by Madhouse, it still looks pretty good, and there are moments like in the animation where it does look like it was animated by Madhouse, despite that this one was actually was animated by JC Crew or Stru or whatever, that actually did Food Wars and the other animes, which I'm not familiar with the company. But I still think it looks pretty good, and I still think it really holds up to this day. Like, I still like the acting. I like one of the characters, especially the main ones like Saitama and Genos. I like the action scenes. The CGI can be very distracting, but like it doesn't really ruin the show or anything. So I'm glad that I was able to watch the second season after I watched the first season. So overall, One Punch Man season 2, not a bad season. I think it's just as good, if not better than the first one. And if you guys are huge fans of One Punch Man, if you really like the first season, and if you really like to see a follow-up of this anime, if you want to see like what's really going on with Saitama, Genos, and you want to see some new characters, especially the heroes are there just being heroic, and the villains are just kind of there just to cause trouble for no reason, then I think you guys should definitely give season 2 a chance. So yeah, I think that's all I got to say about One Punch Man season 2. Like I said, it's not as bad as many people would say it is, not as good as the first season, but I'm glad I watched it, and I think it's pretty good. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give One Punch Man season 2 a 8.7 out of 10. I liked it. Isn't it as good as the first season? No. But do I like it? Absolutely. And I still recommend it to fans of One Punch Man. You can actually watch this anime on Hulu. There's even a third season on Hulu, which I might go check it out, and maybe I'll review it one day. But as of right now, I really do enjoy the second season. Not as good as the first one, but it's still good. So especially this anime is also on Blu-ray and DVD. So go get this anime and go buy it. There you go, guys. So this is my review for One Punch Man Season 2. Now, I would love to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of One Punch Man Season 2? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Was there some things that you really like about this season? Did you think the CGI is very distracting like I thought it was? Or do you think this season's not good? Or do you think it's a disgrace to the first season? Let me know in the comments below. I will love to hear your opinions, and I will love to hear your honest opinions about it. So yeah, I think that's all I got to say for today. So feel free to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and turn on the notifications when I make new videos. And stay tuned for the next video that I'm going to be doing a top 10 list. And the top 10 list that I'm going to be working on is the top 10 scariest shark attacks in shark movies, since summer is like my favorite time to talk about sharks. And usually all the shark sightings has been reported on in the beaches, on the news reports every time. So stay tuned for my top 10 scariest shark attacks in shark movies. So that's all I gotta say for today, guys, and hope you guys enjoyed my review for One Punch Man Season 2. This is James Hernandez signing out by saying, One Punch!